In the middle of a blizzard, two K9 dogs burst into the forest, ignoring commands, chasing a scent no one else could find. Hours later, they stopped at a tree and started barking like mad. What officers discovered tied to that tree would leave everyone who saw it in tears. The snow was falling hard that night, thick flakes swirling under the headlights of Officer Michel Patrol car as he cruised the winding forest road. It was supposed to be a routine check, a call about a suspicious vehicle parked near the tree inn. Nothing urgent, nothing unusual, just another cold shift on the outskirts of town. Ryan, a veteran K9 handler, was known for his sharp instincts and unshakable calm. His two loyal German shepherds, Shadow and Echo, rode silently in the back seat, alert but relaxed. They trusted him, and he trusted them. At 6:35 p.m., Ryan radioed, in his voice distorted by static. Approaching vehicle now, license plates partially buried. I'm going to check it. Out on foot. That was the last anyone heard from him. When dispatch tried to respond, there was no reply. Repeated calls went unanswered. Officers were dispatched to his location, but what they found sent a chill deeper than the winter air. His cruiser sat with the engine still running, driver's door open, radio buzzing with static. The snow around the vehicle was trampled, boot prints circling toward the woods, then stopping abruptly. No sign of Ryan, no struggle, no blood, no clues. But something was missing from the back seat. Shadow and Etchko were gone. Panic gripped the team. Officers fanned out through the snow, calling his name. But it wasn't human voices that would find him first. It was the instincts of two K9s trained for loyalty and driven by love. The moment the rear doors of the cruiser were open, Shadow and Echo leapt out into the snow without hesitation. They didn't wait for commands. Their noses went straight to the ground, sniffing furiously, tails rigid with purpose. Officer Mason, Ryan's closest friend on the force, watched in awe as the two dogs split for a moment, one circling the edge of the woods, the other racing toward the tree inn. They know, he muttered under his breath. They know exactly where he went. The other officers barely had time to grab flashlights before the dogs took off into the forest, weaving through trees like black streaks in snow. Let's go, Mason called, signaling the rest of the team to follow. The blizzard made visibility a nightmare. The snow swallowed sound, and the trail was hard to read, but the dogs moved like they were born for this. They barked once, then again, urging the humans to keep up. Minutes passed, each one dragging, heavier than the last. The officers were struggling to breathe in the cold, but Shadow suddenly stopped, his body stiff, nose pressing to a drift. He whined and barked, frantic, high-pitched and urgent. Echo joined, seconds later, pawing at the snow, digging with wild intensity. Mason's heart pounded. He's close, he whispered. They found something. Whatever had happened out there, the dogs were about to lead them straight to it. Through the thick curtain of falling snow, Mason spotted a shape barely visible, slumped against the trunk of a large pine tree. His heart dropped. Ryan, he shouted, running toward the figure. There he was, Officer Ryan Cole, barely conscious, his uniform torn and blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. He was tied tightly to the tree with thick rope, his arms pinned. Behind him, face pale from cold and pain, Shadow and Echo were already beside him, Echo tugging fiercely at the rope while Shadow whimpered, licking Ryan's hand as if trying to wake him. Ryan stirred slightly, his eyes fluttering open. Mason, he croaked. Voice. They found me. "We got you, brother," Mason said quickly, cutting at the rope with a utility knife. "You're okay now." The snow had soaked through Ryan's clothes, and his skin was ice cold. Echo barked urgently, pushing against Ryan's chest as if to keep him upright. Mason pulled off his own jacket and wrapped it around his friend. "Who did this?" another officer asked, scanning the woods with his flashlight. "Was it an ambush?" Ryan shook his head slowly. "Didn't see them. Hit from behind, then woke up here." Shadow growled, ears pinned back, staring into the darkness as if he could still sense a presence nearby. But nothing moved, nothing except the wind and the falling snow. And yet, even in the chaos, the two K9s hadn't left the side. They had tracked him down through a storm, and they had arrived just in time. With Ryan barely able to stand, Mason wrapped an arm around him and began guiding him through the snow. The other officers formed a protective circle as they pushed back toward the cruiser. The forest around them felt heavier now, darker, as if something sinister still lingered just out of reach. Shadow and Echo didn't let up for a second. Shadow stayed glued to Ryan's side, occasionally licking his numb fingers to keep him conscious, while Echo darted ahead to clear the path, barking as if demanding the storm depart for them. But the snow was coming down harder now. Each step became a struggle. Ryan was shivering uncontrollably, slurring his words, and his body sagged more heavily. With each minute, Mason gritted his teeth and pressed on. "Stay with me, brother," he muttered. "You're not quitting now." Suddenly, Ryan collapsed into the snow. "Medic!" Mason shouted. Two officers dropped beside him. Echo began howling, sharp and piercing, cutting through the stillness like a cry for help. Shadow lay down beside Ryan, trying to warm his body with his own. Moments later, headlights broke through the trees. The backup team had arrived, bringing with them a paramedic unit and warm blankets. They lifted Ryan onto a stretcher, still barely conscious, but alive. As the medic examined him, she whispered, if those dogs hadn't found him when they did, he wouldn't have survived the next hour. Echo nuzzled Ryan's chest once, then sat beside the stretcher, guarding him like a soldier. Even as Ryan lay motionless on the stretcher, barely clinging to consciousness, Shadow and Echo refused to leave his side. The paramedics gently tried to move them back, but Shadow growled low, not out of aggression, but protectiveness. Echo barked once and pressed his head against Ryan's hand, tail still and stiff. "Let them stay," Mason said softly. "They're the reason he's alive." The medics nodded and worked carefully, slipping oxygen over Ryan's face and checking his pulse. Echo pacing tight, circles, letting out small, anxious whines whenever Ryan's eyes fluttered shut. Shadow never left his post at Ryan's feet, watching every move the medics made, his ears twitching with every sound. As the team prepared to move, the snow had piled high again. The path back to the cruisers was nearly gone, so the officers formed a makeshift sled using two stretchers, lashing them together with emergency blankets. "We're walking him out," Mason said. "No way we wait for airlift in this storm." The team moved in silence and determination. Echo walked at Ryan's left side, Shadow at his right, both refusing food, water, everything. All that mattered was staying close to the man they loved. Every few steps, Echo would nudge Ryan's shoulder with his nose as if to say, "Keep going. We're here." Shadow occasionally looked up at Mason as if asking, "Is he going to make it?" And Mason, holding the lead rope with frozen hands, could only whisper, "He has to. Days passed and the hospital room remained quiet except for the soft beep of machines and the occasional shuffle of nurses. Ryan lay, still recovering from hypothermia and internal bruising. The doctor said it was a miracle he survived, but everyone knew it wasn't luck, it was a loyalty. On the third day, Ryan stirred. His eyes blinked open, dry and heavy, and the first words he rasped were barely a whisper. "Where are my boys?" Just outside the room, Shadow and Echo had been waiting. The moment they heard his voice, they both stood, tails wagging, ears perked. The nurse smiled. "Bring them in." When the door opened, the two K9s rushed forward like a flood of fur. In emotion, Shadow gently placed his paws on the bed, licking Ryan's arm, while Echo climbed halfway up, burying his face in Ryan's chest. Tears slid down Ryan's cheeks. His battered hand reached up, resting on both of their heads. "You didn't leave me," he whispered. "You found me." A week later, the police department held a special ceremony. Shadow and Echo were honored with medals for bravery, but they didn't understand awards.